everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I've got a really interesting book from 50 Watt Books called Pictograms by Warja Lavater. This seems like a German artist since most of the writing's in German in here. I really wish this book had come with like an English translation or something. I was having to do some looking on Google. But this I picked up when I was ordering the Tiger Tatishi stuff. I saw this as well, and it grabbed my eye for the appearance of what looked like another early example of comics that played with the poetics of form, as I keep calling it. And indeed it is, but it's so much more than that. It's really, really interesting. These earliest ones are from 1976, and these go up through the 90s, I think. What they are is really hard to describe. They're kind of like maps and diagrams. Here I can say, because I can read it, and I've had some other ones where I translated it. So I'm just going to go through the book and give some examples. But the format's almost always the same on these. So once you get the format, as long as you can interpret what's down here, you kind of get the sense of how this artist is operating and how Warja, I don't know why. My assumption is that's a female name, but I could be wrong. But the artist is, like saying, like working somewhere between mapping, information graphics, and poetics of form, like pure abstract comics. It's really interesting. So here you have the black dot is wolf, and then this dot here is child, and then this here is garden. So here you have like the child walking through the garden. The wolf comes out and seemingly attacks it, eats it, consumes it, but then the child grows inside of it and kind of pushes the wolf away, and now the wolf has a hole in it. So there, like, the story plays out just by the interpretation of the graphics based on the key. There's some of them that I had a harder time with because there would be extra stuff at the bottom tagged to each one of the panels. This one's actually in English for some reason over here, even though it's in German over here. But this is a fitted carpet, and then there's a screen, and then this is just, oh, this is the fitted carpet. This is angst or fear, and then this is the screen. I don't know. The dot must just be that you're taking your fear and making it more organized so it's not so overwhelming. And then this to me looks like maybe an electric outlet. I know when you go over to Europe you get different electric outlets, but this just seems like the fear has been organized on a screen. I don't know exactly what that means. And then this is under the carpet. And then here you have like vision, selection, definition, so I got that right, vulgarization, television. Yeah, so that makes sense. So and then you have all of it like under, okay, yeah, that's kind of how you have to work through these things. So you just have angst, and then here you're getting that you're kind of selecting and putting together your angst. Here you're defining it, so you're organizing it. Then as it's become organized, it gets vulgarized to where it's just too easily consumable, and then it's put out on the television. But underneath the carpet, there's still all the fears going on. So a lot being said here as you interpret it in a very small amount of space, with some just really beautifully visual, abstract kind of uses of non-representational uses, or abstractly infographic representations of complex ideas. This one is another one that I was able to interpret here. It didn't have too much writing at the bottom. So you get this box here is the Cafe of the Artists. The circles here are children, the garçon, or maybe the server. I think that's, the translation was boy, but maybe I'm used to that as like the server. These little peg shapes are the artists. This is the natives, these little hill shapes, and then the triangles are the tourists. So it shows the kind of process of the artists coming in, making something cool, fleeing. They get out of there once too much money's in the place. A lot of tourists are now crowding around. Eventually, the tourists and the servers, I think, are taking over the full thing. Then it becomes institutionalized, is my take on this, and now it's a museum, and all of the locals who have been chased out by this process of gentrification basically are now coming to this, what used to be a lively cafe is now a museum. So to tell all of that with these infographics is really interesting. Looking at this, I also cannot help but think of the very, very famous painter, visual artist, Julie Meritou, whose work started very much with these little symbol systems and then became very complex, like paintings that map in an infographic way. She was someone who was really influential on me when I was an undergraduate, seeing her work, and put me into the idea, along with Chris Ware, of infographics. So this is like an early precedent for that kind of stuff. That it's really cool that 50 Watts Books has gone and reprinted this and brought it to the fore. I don't know who was ever talking about this artist before now, but it's definitely someone who should be being revisited. I have no idea what the influence is, which artists have seen this and who hasn't. This one here is something to do with the banking system. So you have a halo, and then the box here equals a banknote, and then these characters are all noted as creditors. So here you have, I think, like the angel investor coming along, or turning other people into angels. Then you see all the banknotes here, and then these characters make off with the money in the end. So something about capitalism in an abstract little surreal form there. But again, the visuals here are just so awesome. Like the abstraction is just so fun to look at. Here's another one, where just the shapes and the forms and the rhythm of how they interact over the page is really fun. You basically have participants wearing masks, and then this is a buffet. So this is a little bit simpler story. But yeah, I just think such a cool addition to the history of what comics are or can be. This one is just about liberty versus constraint. So here you have like a totally chaotic world. Everyone's totally at liberty. Very few people are feeling constrained. Then people start to group off and get their own constraints, and then they kind of build the constraints and put themselves in them and then become molded by them. So just talking about how society's formed. This one is actually interpretable as a bit of like visual poetry, both in terms of the musicality of it, but also there's been a key given to the side, so you can go and translate these for people who are into like code cracking. And it says, oh, I see, yes, yes, this is yes, yes, please, the following speaker's fairy life. And then I didn't go and interpret it at all, but even these shapes here you'd be able to interpret. So that's a really interesting thing. There's just, for things that look so simple on the surface, you can spend a lot of time with each one of these. This one is a chart of different kind of stage setups. So these are people, and this is the podium or the stage. And then this one is Vivaldi. So you have the audience out here, and you have the director here, and the orchestra on stage. This is Skotastowicz, who I don't know what that would be in terms of listening. And then here it's pop, where there's like 5 people on stage and people crowded all around it. I don't know what this one in the middle is. I didn't look up that artist's name. So again, just really fun visual representations. And then here, just something I don't totally get, but playing with, I guess, the way nouns and vowels sound. So yeah, 9, like very harsh and mechanical. Yes, no, like round, and then oui, non. Just comparing these different languages. You can see by this one, it's 1992. I think the final one goes up to like 98. So this is an artist that was committed to this for a very, very long time period. I don't know if these are all the ones that this artist made in their career while they were doing other things, or if there's more of this out here. But I think for anyone who's really interested in the mechanics of comics, if you can look at work like this, even though you maybe don't like story, you want story and all of that stuff, when you can see the mechanics of the formal elements of art and the principles of design on display in their formal state, you can kind of get a better sense of how you can use them when you go to something narrative. And even though this author does have kind of like narrative things that you can interpret out of here, I could see things like this being put to use in a longer form narrative. And that's why this stuff is valuable to me, as well as the Tiger Tatishi and like the stuff that's coming out from Editions Métier. If you can really get into the poetics of form as its own discipline, then that can be like a sub-layer to the more narrative representational work that people do. So I've been so thrilled to be finding these works and to be digging into like the history of artists that have been doing this for a while. So if there's more stuff like this out there that people know about, please let me know. I think this is the stuff that's influencing me the most right now, even though I still want to do narrative work with characters and stuff where you can see what's going on. This stuff I think is really my favorite stuff in comics right now. So I'd love to know more. And if you haven't been checking this kind of stuff out, definitely it's going to make you a better artist and a better cartoonist. Plaza by Yokoyama Yuichi. This is translated by Ryan Holmberg and is very large for a manga, so that's a really cool feature of this book, this standard manga size. And this is just a 200 some odd page representation of what Yokoyama Yuichi thinks of the Carnival Parade. And he's just made this like relentlessly loud and rhythmic book that pushes all kinds of amazing boundaries of what comics and manga are, and we could not recommend this book more.
Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.